how detrimental to the team, in particular to the win and loss columns, do you expect Sherrone Moore suspension to be? For now, let's just assume he is out for the first 4 weeks based on Chris's article earlier. Do you think the record will be any worse than it would have been if he was on the sidelines? And do you think the record will still suffer even if he returns due to any sort of hangover from his absence?
That's just a prediction, by the way, on, that, okay, if the NCAA isn't agreeing to which they are not, from what we've heard, right, or not, it doesn't look good. Maybe it looks a little bit better if Michigan sweetens the pot with some recruiting restrictions for him. But my prediction is, it's going to be maybe 3 or 4. So sure as hell doesn't help, right, because he's not going to be involved in the day-to-day putting together of the game plan. Jim Harbaugh was able to do that. They changed the rule. Did they call it the Harbaugh rule now? I don't know, but they probably should. So clearly it didn't work for them to keep Michigan from winning games without their head coach. So they've got to do something a little bit more to make it tougher. But 2 of the games are layups, with all due respect to your Central Michigan Chips there, Anthony. And the other 2 we're going to be tough either way. And I think it would have been really helpful. It would be really helpful to have Sherrone Moore on the sidelines against Oklahoma. I think they would want to win that game for him. They might want to anyway, even if he's gone. So to me, it comes down to, okay, how much do you trust the people that you have in place? And we knew when Jim Harbaugh wasn't coaching, it was going to be a loss, but he had trained his guys so well, and the team was so good that they could go on and win without him. Is this team in that position at this point? You got a first-year coordinator. I don't know. I don't even know who the head coach would be. It's tough to figure out if it's going to be Biff Poggi. Is it going to be Chip Lindsey? To me, it should be the offensive coordinator, I think. I think the defense is in great hands with Wink Martindale, and that's going to kind of take care of itself. So let him do that. But when it comes to a game and the flow of it, I want the offensive coordinator out there, and I would trust Chip Lindsey. So would it be detrimental? Yes. Would it be a death knell? I don't think so.
I think it'd be really tough. And even with the Jim Harbaugh part of this, when you look back to 2023 as an example, right, they played a lot better late in the year without him than they did, relative to the competition. Like, there was some clunkiness early in the year. They won those games pretty easily. Bowling Green was a little bit of a struggle for a while. They threw 3 picks, but it felt like things were a little more off almost early in the year without him than late in the year. That team was just, kind of clicking, and they were ready for those big games. Penn State came around, and, but part of that was because he was in the building all week. He was at the team hotel in Happy Valley. He was circling the stadium, waiting to see if he was going to get his injunction to come into Beaver Stadium. And then I believe he flew to Maryland the next week, and then he met him back at the tarmac after. Like, that is way different than if you had 3 or 4 games to start the year before you've built an identity, before you've gotten in a groove, before you've gotten in a routine for the season throughout the week, let alone on game day. Like, that's really hard. And like you said, like, even in 23, we talked about this last week, the staff had future head coaches on it, guys that are head coaches now, like Sherrone Moore. This staff isn't as veteran, other than, guys like Wink Martindale. There are plenty of them with a ton of experience, but I don't know who the next head coach is from this team. So it's different. The circumstances are different. And, I think that if you look at the 2 tough games in that stretch, if it were 4, Oklahoma and then Nebraska, we know he's going to be out for Nebraska if things go according to plan. At this point, like, those are high stakes games, because then you're going to have ground to make up if you lose 1 or 2 of them. And then he comes back, and then maybe there's some clunkiness with, figuring that out. And okay, now you got your head coach back. Like, it could just be one of those weird years that you look back again, almost like last year afterwards, and you say, man, what could have been with that season? So it's unfortunate. I think it has a huge impact, more than a lot of people realize when it comes to the stuff during the week.
I mean, I would be concerned if it winds up being in a scenario where it is 4 games. We're not reporting it's 4 games. It's a talking point. It's part of the question. That worries me more than anything, because 2 of those are what I think are extremely difficult road games. You're trying to establish this battle rhythm of, rolling, getting into the month of October, and then getting through mid-October, and then that stretch run late where, this schedule sets up where it's home away the entire year. There's no soft landing anywhere. Even if the schedule itself in the aggregate is easier than last year, you have those 6 road trips to make, and those first 3 are Oklahoma's going to be a tough game. They're going to be a popular college football playoff pick heading into this year. Nebraska, you think should be improved. We'll see what type of step they take, but that's a tough environment to play in. Going out west, we saw even just last year, at Washington, that wasn't a very good football team, but you struggled out there. And I think this USC team they'll play is going to be better than that Washington team was. So if you have a 4-game suspension and then Sherrone Moore comes back and you come out of that first half of the schedule at 3-3 in a year where we talked about this before, he needs to win and they need to win and prove that last 3 games wasn't just, lightning in a bottle. That is concerning to me. And that would be very disruptive to the outlook and the range of outcomes for next year. So
the only thing I'll say about the who's the next head coach thing, you've got 2 coordinators this time around that have unbelievable experience, right? And preparing years and years and years of experience in football knowledge. So that makes me feel a little bit better too.
Yeah. And Chip Lindsey's been a head coach, and Wink Martindale could be at some level. He just was in the NFL for a long time. So, maybe it's unfair of me to say
you
that.
You feel a lot better about the adults in the room than if this had happened last year.
Exactly.